The world outside your window is a battlefield. It's a war for success, for happiness, for fulfillment, for purpose. It's a fight against mediocrity, against stagnation, against the quiet desperation of a life unlived. Every day the bugle sounds, the drums beat, and the troops are called to the front lines. The ground trembles with the thunder of progress, the air crackles with the energy of innovation, and the sky is filled with the soaring ambitions of those who dare to fight for their dreams. The war is on, and it's a war that will determine the future of your life, your legacy, and your very soul. And yet, here you sit. You are a soldier, a warrior, a person of immense potential, strength, and capability. You are equipped with the skills, the talents, and the opportunities to be a force on this battlefield. You have the intellect to strategize, the strength to endure, and the courage to charge. But instead of being on the front lines, you are sitting in the barrack. The war rages on, but you remain idle, a spectator in the great battle of life. Why? What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for a special invitation? Are you waiting for a sign from the heavens? Are you waiting for the war to end, so you can stroll out and claim victory without a single scratch? The war will not end. The war will only be won by those who are willing to fight. This image of a soldier sitting in the barrack is a powerful and unsettling one. It's a metaphor for a life of unused potential, a life of unfulfilled purpose. It's the story of a person who has all the tools for greatness, but lacks the will to use them. It's the story of a life that is a whisper when it should be a roar. We see this all around us in the lives of people who have so much to offer, but give so little. We see it in the student who has the intelligence to excel but chooses to coast through their education. We see it in the salaried worker who has the skills to innovate and lead but chooses to simply do the bare minimum. We see it in the aspiring entrepreneur who has a brilliant idea but never takes the first step to turn it into reality. They are all soldiers sitting in the barrack, watching the war of life rage on from a distance. This idleness is not just a personal failing, it is a profound waste. It is a squandering of the most precious resources you have, your time, your talent, and your potential. It's like having a vast, fertile field and never planting a single seed, or owning a powerful sports car and never taking it out of the garage. The potential is there, the opportunity is there, but the action is not. This inaction is a form of self-sabotage, a quiet surrender to a life of less than what you are capable of. It's a tragedy, because the world outside is not a playground, it's a war, and in a war, inaction is a choice with consequences. The enemy of your dreams is not some external force, it's your own inertia. It's the comfortable familiarity of the barrack, the seductive promise of safety and security that keeps you from facing the glorious, terrifying chaos of the battlefield. Think about money. We all understand that money that is simply sitting in a bank account, not being invested or put to work, is losing value over time. It is a tool for wealth creation, but if it remains idle, it becomes a victim of inflation, its purchasing power eroding with every passing day. Money in a bank is a soldier sitting in the barrack. It has the potential to grow, to create more wealth, to build a future, but it is doing nothing. It is stagnant. Its potential is being wasted. Just as we would never leave our money to sit idle and lose value, why do we so often leave our own potential to sit idle and lose its power? Why do we allow our skills, our talents, our unique abilities to languish in the metaphorical bank of our mind, earning nothing, growing nothing, creating nothing? This book is a wake-up call. It's a bugle blast in the quiet of your barrack. It's a challenge to you, to the soldier within you, to stand up, to pick up your weapon, and to step out into the battlefield of your life. It's a declaration that the war is on, and you are needed. You are needed to fight for your dreams, to fight for your family, to fight for your purpose. You are needed to fight against the forces of apathy, of doubt, of fear. The world is waiting for you, but it will not wait forever. The opportunities you have today will not be there tomorrow. The energy you have now will not last forever. The time to act is now. This book is not a manual for a single battle. It's a strategy for the entire war. It's a guide to help you transition from being a spectator to being a player, from being a soldier in the barrack to being a hero on the battlefield. We will explore the nature of this battlefield, the different fronts of this war, and the tools you will need to fight effectively. We will confront the enemy, which is often the voice of doubt and fear in your own mind. We will learn to strategize, to plan, and to execute with precision. We will discover the importance of discipline, resilience, and courage. We will understand that success is not an accident, it is a result of intentional action. It is the result of a soldier who is willing to get up, get out, and get to work. This book is for the student who feels lost, the salaried worker who feels trapped, the entrepreneur who feels intimidated, the rich person who feels empty, and the poor person who feels hopeless. It is for anyone who has ever felt that their life could be more, that they could be more. Life is a series of choices, and the most important choice you will ever make is whether you will be a soldier on the battlefield or a spectator in the barrack. The comfortable security of the barrack is an illusion. There is no real safety in inaction. The greatest risk you can ever take is the risk of doing nothing. The greatest loss you can ever suffer is the loss of a life unlived. So I ask you again, are you ready to fight? Are you ready to step out of the barrack and into the war? This book is your call to action. It is your invitation to join the ranks of those who are not just living, but truly fighting for a life of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. It is time to leave the barrack behind. The war is on. Chapter 1. The Soldier in the Barrack, a Wasted Force. You've seen him before, haven't you? Maybe not in a literal sense, but you've seen the face of a soldier sitting in the barrack. He's the person with a mind like a steel trap, but who never reads a book, never learns a new skill, never engages in a deep conversation that challenges his worldview. He's the artist with a soul full of color who refuses to pick up a brush, the musician with melodies in her heart who lets her instrument gather dust. He is the entrepreneur with a groundbreaking idea that he's too afraid to pitch, the leader with a vision who remains silent in the meeting room. This isn't just about a hypothetical person, it's about a condition, a state of being where immense potential is held in a state of suspended animation. It's the human equivalent of a supercar gathering cobwebs in a garage, of a high-powered computer used only for solitaire. The soldier in the barrack is not a coward, he is a man of discipline and training, but his discipline and training are being directed inward, toward a state of stillness, while the world outside is in motion. Imagine a soldier, a warrior forged in the fires of training. He has spent months, maybe years, honing his skills. He is a master of strategy, a sharpshooter with an aim that never falters, an expert in hand-to-hand combat. He has the physical endurance to march for days and the mental fortitude to withstand the most grueling conditions. He is equipped with the best gear, the sharpest blade, the most reliable firearm. This soldier is not just a person. He is a finely tuned instrument of war, designed for one purpose, to fight. His very being, his entire existence, is oriented toward the battlefield. He is a resource, a tool, a weapon waiting to be deployed. But what happens when the war horn sounds, the battle cry echoes through the hills, and he chooses to stay behind? What happens when he sits on his bunk, polishing his boots, while his comrades are out on the front lines, fighting for a cause? The answer is simple, and it's devastating. Nothing happens, and that in itself is the tragedy. The sword stays sharp, but never draws blood. The rifle remains clean, but never fires a shot. The soldier's skills, his strength, his courage, they all become a monument to what could have been. They don't grow, they atrophy. The muscles that were built for battle begin to waste away. The mind that was trained for strategy becomes dull. The spirit that was forged for courage begins to rust. The soldier's potential, once a blazing fire, becomes a smoldering ember, and eventually just cold ash. The world outside doesn't stop for him. The battle continues, and the outcomes are decided without his contribution. He might feel a fleeting sense of security, of being safe from harm, but it's a false security, a mirage in the desert of inaction. In the long run, he doesn't just lose the battle, he loses his purpose, he loses the very essence of what he was trained to be. This isn't just a metaphor for a soldier, it's a mirror held up to each of our lives. How many of us are soldiers in the barrack? We are all equipped with a unique set of skills, a personal arsenal of talents, and a lifetime of opportunities. We have the intelligence to learn, the creativity to build, the empathy to connect. We are armed with an education, a network of contacts, and a world of information at our fingertips. The battlefield of life is raging all around us. It's the constant fight for financial stability, the ongoing struggle for personal growth, the daily challenge of building a meaningful career, and the relentless pursuit of a life that feels authentic and purposeful. We see others winning, losing, striving and failing. We see innovations that change the world, businesses that rise and fall, and individuals who achieve what was once thought impossible. The war is real, and it's happening right now. And yet, so many of us choose to remain in the barrack. We stay in the comfort of our routines, the safety of our comfort zones, and the familiarity of our excuses. We tell ourselves that we're not ready, that the timing isn't right, that the risks are too high. We polish our metaphorical boots and clean our metaphorical rifles, but we never step outside to use them. We watch the world from the window, and we become spectators in our own lives. The tragedy of this is that the world doesn't care about our potential, it only cares about our action. A brilliant mind with no output is no different from a mind that is dull. A person with an incredible talent that is never shared is no different from a person with no talent at all. Our potential is a deposit, our action is the withdrawal that brings it to life. Think about a student. They have the intellectual capacity to learn and master any subject. They have access to books, teachers, and a vast world of information. The war for their future is being fought in the classroom, in the library, and in the late-night study sessions. The battlefield is littered with challenging concepts, complex problems, and rigorous exams. A student who chooses to sit in the barrack is one who procrastinates, who takes shortcuts, who settles for just enough to pass. They have the intelligence, the skills, and the resources to excel, but they let their potential gather dust. They get a passing grade, but they lose the opportunity to build a solid foundation of knowledge. They miss the chance to develop the discipline and the work ethic that will be crucial for the rest of their lives. They are a soldier in the barrack, and the war for their future is being lost in a slow, silent surrender. Now consider the salary earner. This person has a job, a steady income, and a set of responsibilities. They have a specific skill set, a defined role, and a clear career path laid out before them. But what if they choose to do only what is required, and nothing more? What if they arrive at work at 9 and leave at 5, never seeking to improve their skills, never taking the initiative to solve a problem, never looking for ways to add more value? They have the potential to become a leader, an innovator, a mentor. They could be building new systems, creating new products, or finding more efficient ways of doing things. The corporate world is a battlefield with constant change, new challenges, and fierce competition. But this soldier, content in their barrack, chooses to remain stagnant. They are safe, yes, but they are also irrelevant. The skills they have today will be obsolete tomorrow if they don't keep learning. The opportunities they are missing will be taken by someone else who is willing to fight for them. Their career becomes a flat line, a testament to a life of unused potential. And what about the entrepreneur, the aspiring one? I mean, the one with a brilliant business idea that could solve a problem, create jobs and generate wealth. The market is a brutal battlefield with competitors, financial risks, and the constant threat of failure. The entrepreneur who chooses to sit in the barrack is one who spends all their time planning, researching, and talking about their idea, but never actually launches it. They are in a state of perpetual preparation, waiting for the perfect moment that will never come. They have the vision, the creativity, and the passion, but they lack the courage to step onto the battlefield. They are a soldier with a perfect plan, but they never leave the tent. The market doesn't wait for them. The problem they wanted to solve is solved by someone else. The opportunity they envisioned is seized by a competitor. Their dreams, once so vibrant and real, fade into the background noise of an unlived life. They are left with the hollow ache of regret, a pain far deeper than any failure on the battlefield could have been. This is the central truth that we must confront. Unused potential is a burden. It is not a blessing, it is a curse. It weighs us down with a sense of dissatisfaction and a nagging feeling that we are meant for more. The talents we were given were not meant to be admired, they were meant to be used. The opportunities that come our way were not meant to be contemplated, they were meant to be seized. The skills we have acquired were not meant to be preserved, they were meant to be deployed. The soldier in the barrack is not just a metaphor for a wasted life, he is a cautionary tale about the slow, insidious decay of the human spirit when it is starved of purpose and action. So, how do we leave the barrack? The first step is to acknowledge that we are in it. We have to look in the mirror and see the soldier who is sitting idle. We have to stop making excuses and start taking responsibility. The world outside is not a safe place, but it is a place of growth, of challenge, of meaning. The battlefield is where character is forged, where strength is tested, and where victory is won. It is where you find out who you really are. The barrack is just a holding pen, a place of stasis, a prelude to a life of quiet regret. This is not about a single grand gesture, it is about a series of small intentional steps. It's about picking up your metaphorical weapon, one day at a time. It's about taking the first step, no matter how small, toward your goals. This is what we will explore in the chapters to come. We will learn to identify the invisible walls of our barrack, the mental barriers and fears that keep us from taking action. We will learn how to equip ourselves for the battle, not just with skills and knowledge, but with a mindset of resilience and courage. We will learn how to strategize and plan our attacks, how to focus our energy on the battles that matter most. We will understand that the war is not just about winning, it's about fighting with honor, with purpose, and with a sense of meaning. We will learn to celebrate the small victories and to learn from the inevitable setbacks. This is not a manual for easy success, it is a guide for a life of intentional action. The barrack is comfortable, but it is not where you belong. You are a soldier, a warrior, a force to be reckoned with. The war is raging, and it's time to step out and fight. Chapter 2. Money is a soldier too. Just as you are a soldier in the army of your life, so too is your money. It is a resource, a tool, an asset with a singular purpose, to work for you. Think of every dollar, every pound, every euro you earn as a recruit, a fresh soldier joining your ranks. You train it, you discipline it, and you arm it with a specific mission. Its mission is to fight on the battlefield of finance, to grow your wealth and to secure your future. A dollar that sits idle in a savings account, earning a pittance in interest, is a soldier sitting in the barrack. It is a trained and equipped warrior, a powerful agent of change, but it is doing nothing. It is a victim of a silent and relentless enemy, inflation. We are taught from a young age to save. A penny saved is a penny earned, the old adage goes. And while saving is a crucial first step, it is not the final destination. Saving is the equivalent of enlisting a soldier and then keeping him in the barracks. It prevents him from being lost or spent foolishly, which is a good thing, but it does not allow him to fulfill his purpose. A soldier's purpose is to fight. Money's purpose is to work. When money is just sitting, its power is being eroded day by day, month by month, year by year. That $100 you put under your mattress 10 years ago is not worth the same $100 today. Its purchasing power has been stealthily chipped away by the rising cost of goods and services. It is a soldier whose strength is diminishing while he sits idle, a casualty of a battle he never even joined. This is the great deception of the modern financial world. We are lulled into a false sense of security by the idea of saving for a rainy day. We are praised for our discipline in putting money aside. But if that money is not deployed, if it is not put to work in the financial battlefield, it is not truly serving us. It is like having a powerful army that you never send to war. The enemy is inflation, and it is winning every single day. While your money sits idle, the price of a gallon of milk goes up, the cost of a car increases, and the price of a house skyrockets. Your soldier is in the barrack, but the enemy is attacking your flank, your rear and your front, all at once. The battle is being lost without you ever firing a single shot. This brings us to the fundamental difference between a saver and an investor. The saver is the one who puts their soldier in the barrack. They might have a substantial amount of money, a large battalion of soldiers, but they are all in a state of suspended animation. They are waiting, but for what? They are waiting for the day they will be needed, but by that time, their strength will have diminished. The investor, on the other hand, is the general who deploys his troops. They take their soldiers, their money, and they send them out to fight for them. They invest in stocks, in real estate, in businesses, in themselves. They put their money to work, and their money, like a good soldier, fights to create more of itself. It is a relentless, disciplined, and strategic deployment of resources that results in the growth of wealth. Let's illustrate this with a simple story. Meet Sarah, the saver, and David, the investor. Both earn the same salary, and both manage to put away a significant amount of money each month. Sarah, in her prudence, puts all her savings into a high-interest savings account. She feels secure knowing her money is safe. She can see the numbers in her account growing steadily, albeit slowly. She is a disciplined soldier, but her troops are all in the barrack. They are safe, but they are not fighting. The interest she earns barely keeps pace with inflation, and sometimes it doesn't even do that. Her $100 today will still be $100 in 10 years, but it will buy significantly less. She is a soldier who has decided to avoid all conflict, and in doing so, she has guaranteed she will never win a major battle. David, on the other hand, is a disciplined investor. He also saves, but he sees his savings as a staging ground. He gathers his troops, and then he deploys them. He invests in a diversified portfolio of index funds, in a few well-researched stocks, and a small piece of real estate. He understands that there is risk involved, that some of his soldiers might be lost in a battle. But he also understands that the potential for gain far outweighs the risk of sitting on the sidelines. His money is working for him. It is earning dividends. It is appreciating in value. It is fighting to create more wealth. His $100 today might be $150 in 10 years, or $200 or more. He has losses, yes, but he also has victories. He is a soldier on the battlefield, and he is actively engaged in the war for his financial future. David, on the other hand, is a disciplined investor. He also saves, but he sees his savings as a staging ground. He gathers his troops, and then he deploys them. He invests in a diversified portfolio of index funds, in a few well-researched stocks, and a small piece of real estate. He understands that there is risk involved, that some of his soldiers might be lost in a battle. But he also understands that the potential for gain far outweighs the risk of sitting on the sidelines. His money is working for him. It is earning dividends. It is appreciating in value. It is fighting to create more wealth. His $100 today might be $150 in 10 years, or $200 or more. He has losses, yes, but he also has victories. He is a soldier on the battlefield, and he is actively engaged in the war for his financial future. This isn't just a story for the wealthy, it's a lesson for the student, the salary earner, the aspiring entrepreneur. To the student, the money you earn from a part-time job or receive as a gift is not meant to sit idle in your bank account. It is meant to be put to work. You can invest it in a small business, in a course that teaches you a new skill, or in a book that expands your knowledge. Your soldier is your future. Don't let it sit in the barrack. To the salary earner, your monthly paycheck is a fresh battalion of soldiers. Do you simply send them all to the barrack? Or do you take a portion of them and deploy them on the battlefield of the stock market, in a side hustle, or in a new business venture? Your financial freedom is not won by saving alone, it is won by strategic investment. To the aspiring entrepreneur, you are the general. Your money is not just capital, it is your army. How you deploy it will determine the fate of your business. Do you spend it all on lavish office space and marketing gimmicks? Or do you deploy it strategically, investing in product development, in talent, and in building a solid foundation for your business? Your capital, your soldiers will fight for you only if you give them a clear mission and a strategic plan. This is not about being reckless, it is about being intentional. It is about understanding that money, like a soldier, has a duty to work. It must be active, it must be engaged, and it must be fighting on your behalf. The soldier in the barrack, whether a person or a dollar, is a tragedy of wasted potential. It is a life that is a whisper when it should be a roar. It is a financial future that is stagnant when it should be growing. The battlefield of life, of finance is not a place to be avoided. It is a place to be embraced. It is where you find out what you are made of. It is where your discipline, your strategy, and your courage are tested. And it is where you win the victories that lead to a life of purpose, freedom, and fulfillment. So I challenge you, look at your money, look at your bank account. Are your soldiers sitting idle? Are they losing their power while you watch from a distance? It's time to change that. It's time to become the general. It's time to understand that the first step to financial freedom is not just to save, but to deploy, to see every dollar not as a measure of security, but as a unit of power waiting to be unleashed. The war is still raging. Your soldiers are waiting for your command. It's time to send them to the front lines. Chapter 3. The Illusion of Safety. The barracks for a soldier represents safety. It's a place of respite from the chaotic, dangerous world outside. The walls are thick, the roof is secure, and the threat of an enemy attack feels far away. This sense of security is deeply comforting. It's the place where a soldier can rest, eat, and feel protected from the dangers of the battlefield. But the danger of the barrack is that the comfort it provides is an illusion. It gives a sense of safety that prevents a soldier from fulfilling their duty. In the same way, a savings account for many is the financial barrack. It's the place where we send our money to rest, to be safe, to be protected from the dangers of the financial world. We see the numbers in our account, and we feel a sense of security, of having a safety net. But this sense of safety is often an illusion, a powerful mirage that can prevent us from truly building wealth. Why do so many of us, even those who are financially disciplined, fall into this trap? The answer is rooted in three powerful mental barriers: fear, ignorance, and the comfort zone. These are the psychological walls of our financial barrack. Fear is perhaps the most significant. The financial world is a battlefield, and it is a scary one. We hear stories of people who have lost everything in the stock market. We see headlines about market crashes and economic downturns. The idea of losing it all is a powerful deterrent, and for many, the risk of investing feels too great to bear. They would rather have their money sit idle and safe than risk a single dollar in the unpredictable currents of the market. This fear is a silent, creeping terror that whispers, "Stay here, it's safer here, don't move." It is the fear of failure, the fear of making a wrong decision, the fear of the unknown. Ignorance is the second wall. Many people simply do not know how the financial world works. They don't understand the difference between saving and investing, the power of compound interest, or the basic principles of diversification. The language of finance, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, sounds like a foreign tongue. They believe that investing is something only for the rich or for those with a business degree. This ignorance creates a sense of helplessness, a belief that they are not equipped for the battlefield. They conclude that it is better to do nothing than to do something they don't understand. This is a tragic mistake. Ignorance is not a permanent condition. It is a temporary state that can be overcome with effort and a willingness to learn. But for many, the effort seems too great, and so they remain in the barrack, their financial potential locked away by a lack of knowledge. The comfort zone is the final, and perhaps most insidious wall. It's the feeling of security that comes from routine and predictability. For a salaried worker, the comfort zone is the automatic direct deposit into a savings account. The feeling of seeing the balance grow incrementally, the belief that a big number in a bank is the ultimate goal. For a business owner, it's the comfort of knowing they have a large cash reserve, even if that cash is not being used to expand the business, acquire new assets, or invest in new technologies. The comfort zone is the enemy of growth. It tells us that what we have is enough, that we don't need to do more. It lulls us into a false sense of security, making us believe that our financial situation is stable and secure, even as the value of our money erodes and the opportunities for growth pass us by. Let me tell you a story. Meet Frank, a man who believed in the power of saving. For 30 years, Frank worked as a dedicated teacher. Every month, he put a significant portion of his salary into a savings account with a decent interest rate. He was proud of his discipline and his growing nest egg. He never invested in the stock market. Too risky, he would say. I can't afford to lose my hard-earned money. He saw the market as a casino, a place where people gambled their future away. His friends would tell him about their investments, their gains, and even their losses. Frank would just smile and say, "I'll stick with what's safe." He was a soldier with a huge chest of gold, all of it sitting in the barrack. When he retired, he had a substantial sum of money in his account, enough to buy a house 30 years ago. But the house he wanted, the house that was once within his reach, was now a distant dream. The value of his savings had not kept pace with the soaring cost of living, with inflation slowly and silently stealing his future. His nest egg, once a source of pride, now felt more like a heavy burden. He had all the money, but its power had diminished, and the opportunities he had worked so hard for had passed him by. He was a perfect example of a soldier who had all the resources but was a casualty of inaction. Now consider Maria. She was a small business owner, an aspiring entrepreneur who had built a successful catering company from the ground up. She was brilliant, hard-working and meticulous. As her business grew, she amassed a large sum of cash in her business bank account. Her accountant advised her to keep a healthy cash reserve, and Maria, being a cautious person, took that advice to an extreme. She loved the feeling of seeing the large balance in her account. It made her feel successful and secure. She was a financial soldier, but all her troops were on standby. She had opportunities to expand, to acquire a new kitchen, to invest in new technology, but she was afraid to part with her cash. She was comfortable. Her comfort zone became a gilded cage. Meanwhile, her competitors, who were less afraid to deploy their capital, started to innovate. They invested in new marketing strategies, they acquired better equipment, and they opened new locations. Maria's business, once a market leader, began to stagnate. Her competitors were fighting on the battlefield, while her soldiers, her money, were sitting in the barrack, watching the war from afar. Eventually, she realized that the safety she felt was an illusion. The cash she was hoarding was not a weapon, it was a weakness. The illusion of safety is a powerful thing because it masquerades as prudence. It tells us that it is better to be safe than sorry, to be cautious than to be bold. But in the long run, this cautiousness can be the most dangerous path of all. It can lead to a slow, silent decline. It can lead to a future that is less than what it could have been. It can lead to the kind of regret that is far more painful than any loss on the battlefield. A soldier who stays in the barrack might avoid a physical injury, but they will suffer the deep psychological wound of a life unlived. A person who keeps their money idle might avoid a financial loss, but they will suffer the profound loss of opportunity and the erosion of their wealth. This chapter is a direct challenge to the illusion of safety. It's a call to action, to move beyond fear, to educate yourself, and to break free from the paralyzing comfort of the financial barrack. The world is not waiting for you to feel ready. The markets are not going to stop. Inflation is not going to pause. The opportunities for growth are not going to wait until you feel perfectly secure. This is not an argument for recklessness, but for intentional action. It is a call to become the general, to strategize, to educate yourself, and to deploy your soldiers with purpose and courage. The first step is to recognize that the barrack, while it may feel safe, is the most dangerous place to be. Your journey toward financial freedom, toward a life of purpose, and toward a future that is truly yours to command, begins the moment you decide to send your soldiers to the front lines. The battles are waiting. It's time to fight. Chapter 4. Deploying your soldiers. Money and potential. The moment a soldier leaves the barrack and steps onto the battlefield, their purpose becomes clear. They are no longer a person with potential. They are a person in action. Their training is put to the test, their discipline becomes a visible force, and their courage is measured not by intention, but by execution. In the same way, the moment you decide to deploy your soldiers, your money and your potential, they begin to fulfill their purpose. Idle money is just paper or numbers on a screen. Untapped potential is just a dream. It is only through intentional, purposeful action that these resources become a force for creation, growth, and change. This is the great transition from being a spectator to being a player, from living a life of passive observation to living a life of active participation. Deploying your soldiers is not about recklessness or gambling, it's about strategy. A general doesn't send his troops into a battle without a plan, and you should not deploy your money or your potential without a clear objective. The goal is to move from the illusion of safety to the reality of strategic action. This requires a profound mindset shift from one of scarcity and fear to one of abundance and courage. It's the difference between thinking, "I can't afford to lose this," and "I can't afford to not try this." The former paralyzes you, keeping your soldiers in the barrack. The latter liberates you, sending them to the front lines. Let's talk about deploying your money. Money is a tool, a soldier, and its purpose is to fight for you. It must be sent out to create more of itself. There are many battlefields for your financial soldiers. One of the most common is investing. This doesn't mean becoming a day trader or putting your life savings into a volatile cryptocurrency you don't understand. It means becoming a strategic general, sending your troops into a diversified portfolio of well-researched assets. Consider the young woman who, after reading about the power of compound interest, started putting a small amount of her monthly salary into a low-cost index fund. For her, every dollar was a soldier sent to the financial front lines. It wasn't a lot at first, but over time, these soldiers started to multiply. They earned dividends, they appreciated in value, and they worked for her day and night while she was at work, while she was sleeping, and while she was on vacation. Her financial future was being built, not just by her salary, but by her deployed soldiers. This is the power of putting your money to work. Another powerful way to deploy money is by starting or growing a business. This is like raising your own army. Instead of just sending your soldiers into a pre-existing battle, you are creating your own. This requires a higher level of strategy and risk, but the potential for victory is also much greater. Think of the aspiring entrepreneur who, instead of letting his small savings sit in a bank, used it to buy inventory for a small online store. He deployed his soldiers to a new battle, and they fought fiercely. The money he spent on inventory came back to him with a profit, which he then used to buy more and more. He was no longer just a salary earner. He was a general commanding his own financial army. He learned about marketing, about supply chains, about customer service. The process itself was a battlefield, but every day he was learning, growing, and fighting for his dream. Perhaps the most crucial deployment of all is investing in yourself. Your potential is your greatest weapon, and you must equip it with the best training and the best gear. A soldier is only as good as their training, and your potential is only as good as the skills you possess. Deploying money in this way means using it to acquire new knowledge, to learn new skills, to get a certification, to attend a workshop, or to hire a mentor. This is a double deployment. You are sending your money to work for you, and in doing so, you are also training your greatest soldier, your own potential for future battles. Think of the salary earner who used a portion of his savings to take a coding boot camp. He deployed his money to acquire a new in-demand skill. A few months later, he was no longer just a salary earner. He was a software developer with a significantly higher salary. He had strategically deployed his soldiers to win a much larger battle, the battle for a better career and a more prosperous future. Just as you must deploy your money, you must also deploy your potential. Your talents, your skills, your intellect, and your creativity are all soldiers waiting for your command. The battlefield for your potential is consistent action. It's the daily discipline of showing up and putting in the work. It's the writer who writes a page a day, not just when they feel inspired. It's the athlete who trains for an hour every morning, even when they're tired. It's the business owner who makes 10 sales calls every single day, no matter how many times they are rejected. Every action, no matter how small, is a deployment of a soldier. These small deployments over time add up to a powerful army that can overcome any obstacle. The soldier who trains every day is ready for battle. The person who uses their potential every day is ready for success. A great example of deploying potential is the story of Sarah, a woman with a passion for baking. For years, she was a soldier in the barrack of her own talent. Her friends and family would praise her delicious creations, but she never thought to turn her passion into a business. She would say, "It's just a hobby." Her potential was a powerful, silent force, but it was doing nothing. One day, a friend challenged her to sell a few of her cakes at a local market. It was a terrifying thought, but she took a leap of faith. She baked a few dozen cakes, wrapped them beautifully, and deployed her potential to the front lines. The first day was slow, but she made a few sales and got some great feedback. She didn't let the fear of failure stop her. She kept showing up, kept baking, and kept deploying her talent. Eventually, her small stall grew into a bustling business, and her hobby became her livelihood. She was no longer a soldier in the barrack. She was a general, commanding an army of her own creativity and discipline. The journey from potential to action is a difficult one, filled with fear, doubt, and the constant temptation to retreat to the barrack. But remember this, potential is a promise, and action is the fulfillment of that promise. The world doesn't care about the potential you have locked away. It cares about the value you create, the problems you solve, and the contribution you make. Your talents were not given to you for your own enjoyment. They were given to you to be used in service of a greater purpose. Your money was not given to you to sit idle. It was given to you to be a tool for wealth creation. This is the great challenge and the profound opportunity of our lives. To become the general, to command our soldiers, and to step out of the barrack and onto the battlefield. It's a journey of continuous learning, of strategic thinking, and of courageous action. The war is still raging. Your soldiers, your money, and your potential are waiting for your command. It's time to deploy them. Chapter 5. The Battlefield of Life. Life is not a playground. It is a battlefield. It's a space where challenges are the enemy, where opportunities are fleeting victories, and where your courage is tested every single day. The person who sees life as a leisurely stroll through a park is bound to be caught off guard by the inevitable ambushes, the surprise attacks of adversity, and the sudden storms of misfortune. The soldier in the barrack, with his polished boots and clean uniform, believes he is safe from this reality. He believes that by simply not engaging, he can avoid the conflict. But the truth is, the war of life is happening whether you participate or not. The battle for a better career, the struggle for financial freedom, the fight for personal growth, these are not optional engagements. They are constant and they are relentless. The only choice you have is whether you will be a warrior on the front lines or a casualty of your own inaction. The most dangerous illusion is the belief that a passive life is a safe life. We tell ourselves that by avoiding risk, we are securing our future. We believe that by not trying, we cannot fail. But this is a profound lie. Inaction is a form of defeat. It is the silent, unceremonious surrender of your potential. When you sit in the barrack, you are not just missing out on victories. You are ensuring that you will never have the chance to win. The opportunities you refuse to take are seized by someone else. The skills you refuse to develop become obsolete. The person you refuse to become remains a ghost of what could have been. The regret of what you didn't do is often a far heavier burden than the pain of what you tried and failed. The battlefield of life, for all its dangers, is the only place where you can truly live. Consider the student who sits idle in the barrack of their mind. They have the intellectual capacity to excel, the resources to learn, and the opportunity to build a foundation for a successful career. But instead of engaging in the battle of study, they choose the path of least resistance. They procrastinate, they take shortcuts, they do just enough to get by. They are like a soldier who refuses to study the enemy's tactics, who neglects to clean his weapon, and who avoids physical training. When the day of the exam comes, the day of battle, they are unprepared. They might pass, but they will never truly master the subject. The knowledge they could have gained, the skills they could have honed, are lost opportunities. Their potential, once a blazing fire, becomes a smoldering ember, and the foundation they were supposed to build for their future is weak and unstable. Now, let me tell you the story of a soldier who decided to fight. Meet David. He was a young man with a passion for art and a dream of becoming a comic book illustrator. But the path was fraught with challenges. The industry was competitive, the chances of success were slim, and everyone he knew told him to find a real job. For years, David was a soldier in the barrack of his own fear. He would sketch in his notebook, but he never shared his work. He would think about creating his own comic, but he never put pen to paper. The war for his dream was raging outside, but he was a spectator, watching from the window of his comfort zone. Then, a turning point came. A friend, who was an aspiring musician, showed him an original song he had composed. It was raw, imperfect, but filled with a passion that was undeniable. This friend, a fellow soldier on the battlefield of life, was not a virtuoso, but he was fighting. He was putting his soul out there, risking rejection and criticism. David saw his friend's courage and was struck by a powerful realization. His talent, his potential, was useless if he didn't deploy it. He decided to leave the barrack. He started a webcomic, posting a new page every week. The first few chapters were rough. The art wasn't perfect, and the story had some flaws. He faced criticism, but he also found a small, loyal audience. He kept fighting, kept creating, kept deploying his talent. Over time, his skills improved. His storytelling became sharper, his art became more refined, and his audience grew. He wasn't just a dreamer anymore. He was a creator, a warrior on the battlefield of his passion. He faced countless challenges: artist's block, self-doubt, financial struggles, but every challenge was a battle he chose to fight, and every battle made him stronger. Contrast David's story with the tragic tale of Mark. Mark was a brilliant innovator with a groundbreaking idea for a new app that would revolutionize how people manage their finances. He spent months, even years, perfecting the concept. He had a meticulous business plan, a detailed financial model, and a comprehensive marketing strategy. He had all the pieces, all the training, but he never deployed his soldiers. He was a soldier in the barrack of his own perfectionism. He told himself he wasn't ready, that the market wasn't perfect, that he needed to wait for the ideal time. The battlefield of technology was constantly in motion, with new apps launching every day, but Mark remained idle, convinced that his perfect, unlaunched idea was safer. He was a general who refused to send his army into battle. A few years later, a competitor launched an app with a similar concept. It wasn't as perfect as Mark's idea, but it was deployed. It was a soldier on the battlefield, and it was fighting. The competitor's app gained traction, acquired users, and became a market leader. Mark was left with a perfect idea that was now worthless, a bitter testament to the fact that an idea, like a soldier, is useless if it is not put into action. He was a casualty of his own inaction. This is the central lesson of the battlefield. Challenges are inevitable. You cannot avoid them. You can only choose how you will face them. Fear is the great paralyzer, the enemy that tells you to stay in the barrack, to not risk, to not try. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act in the face of it. The soldier is trained for battle, not for rest. He understands that his purpose is to face adversity, to overcome obstacles, and to fight for a cause. As a person with purpose, you must adopt the same mindset. Your life is not about avoiding challenges, it is about embracing them. The obstacles you face are not roadblocks, they are opportunities to grow, to learn, and to become stronger. They are the battles that will forge your character and test your mettle. Your preparation for the battlefield begins now. It begins with the decision to stop being a spectator and to start being a player. It begins with the commitment to take consistent action, no matter how small. It begins with the courage to face your fears and the discipline to deploy your soldiers, your potential, and your resources with purpose. The war is on. The victories are waiting to be won. The person you are meant to be is on the other side of your fear, on the other side of your comfort zone, on the other side of the barrack walls. It is time to step out and fight. Chapter 6. Fear is the commander of idleness. Every battlefield has a commander, a general who gives the orders, sets the strategy, and directs the troops. But on the battlefield of your life, there is an invisible commander, a shadow figure who holds immense power over your actions and often your inaction. This commander is fear. It is the silent, pervasive voice that whispers in your ear, telling you to stay put, to not take the risk, to not try, because what if you fail? Fear is the general of the barrack, the commander of idleness. It is the force that keeps the soldier from leaving his post, keeps the money from being deployed, and keeps your potential locked away in a cage of what-ifs and could-have-beens. Fear is not an external enemy you can see and fight. It is an internal force that paralyzes you from within. It tells you that the comfortable, predictable life you have is the safest option, even if it is not the most fulfilling. Fear manifests in many forms, each one a different set of orders from the commander of idleness. There is the fear of loss, the terror of losing your money, your status, your security. This is the fear that tells you to keep your savings in a bank account, no matter how much its value erodes. It's the fear that stops the aspiring entrepreneur from investing their life savings into a new business. It's the fear that keeps the wealthy person from taking a calculated risk on a new venture, even though they have more than enough to afford the potential loss. This fear is a prison guard, keeping your financial soldiers locked away in a cell of inactivity. It says, better to have a little and keep it than to risk it all for the chance to have more. But in the war for wealth, this mindset is a guarantee of financial stagnation. You can't win a battle you refuse to fight. Then there is the fear of failure. This is the fear that stops the creative person from sharing their work, the student from taking a challenging course, and the salary earner from asking for a promotion. The fear of failure tells you that your worth is tied to your success and that a single misstep could define you forever. It's the voice that says, if you try and fail, people will laugh at you. You'll be exposed as a fraud. This fear is the great silencer of potential. It keeps your most powerful soldiers, your creativity, your intellect, your discipline, from ever seeing the light of day. It's a fear so potent that it makes inaction feel like a victory. But failure is not the opposite of success, it is a stepping stone to it. Every great victory on a battlefield is preceded by countless smaller battles, some of which were lost. The true failure is not trying at all. Finally, there is the fear of judgment. This is the fear of what others will think, the fear of criticism, the fear of being misunderstood. It's the fear that keeps us from being our authentic selves, from pursuing our unique passions, and from standing out from the crowd. It's the voice that says, what will people say if you quit your stable job to start a business? What will your friends think if you change your career path? What will your family think if you decide to travel the world instead of settling down? This fear keeps us in line, a prisoner to the expectations of others. It makes us conform to a life that is safe and predictable, but ultimately unfulfilling. This fear keeps us from deploying our most important soldier, our true self, to the battlefield of a purposeful life. Let me share with you the story of a man who faced the fear of loss. Meet James, a successful lawyer who had spent years climbing the corporate ladder. He had a prestigious job, a comfortable salary, and a beautiful home. But beneath the surface, he was deeply unhappy. His true passion was woodworking. He spent his weekends in his garage building beautiful furniture. He dreamed of quitting his job and starting his own furniture business, but the fear of loss was a commander he could not disobey. What if I fail? He would ask himself. What if I lose my house? What will happen to my family? What will my colleagues think? The fear was so powerful that it kept him from even taking the first step. For years he was a soldier in the barrack of his own fear, a casualty of a battle he never even joined. Then one day, he met a retired carpenter who had lost his business in a fire. The man had lost everything, but he was at peace. The only thing I truly lost, the old man said, was my fear of losing. Everything else can be rebuilt. This simple statement was a bugle call to James's soul. He realized that the greatest loss was not the loss of his possessions, but the loss of his purpose. He started his business, not all at once, but with a plan. He began with a small line of custom furniture, working in the evenings and on weekends. The fear of loss was still there, but he now had a new commander, courage. He was a soldier on the battlefield of his dream, and he was fighting for a life of meaning, not just a life of comfort. Now consider the story of Emily, a young woman who was paralyzed by the fear of failure. She was a gifted writer with a unique voice and a brilliant imagination, but the idea of writing a book, of putting her soul on the page for the world to read, filled her with terror. What if her book was bad? What if no one bought it? What if she spent years on it and it failed? The fear of failure was her commander. It told her to stay safe, to keep her words in her notebook, to not risk the possibility of a public failure. She was a soldier with a powerful weapon, her words, but she was afraid to fire a single shot. One day, her grandfather, a retired army veteran, saw her struggling. He sat down with her and said, "Emily, I've been in more battles than I can count. I've seen men win and I've seen men fall, but the bravest men I ever knew were not the ones who never failed. They were the ones who got back up and fought again. A soldier's purpose is not to win every battle, it's to keep fighting." His words were a powerful antidote to her fear. She realized that failure was not a final defeat, it was a temporary setback. She began to write her book. She faced countless rejections from agents and publishers, but every rejection was not a failure, it was a battle lost, a lesson learned. She kept fighting, and eventually she found a publisher who believed in her vision. Her book became a bestseller. She was no longer a soldier in the barrack of her fear. She was a warrior who had learned that true courage is the willingness to fail and to keep fighting. The battlefield of life is a place of constant challenges, of setbacks, and of a relentless enemy, your own fear. But remember this, you are a soldier, you are trained for battle. Your potential is your greatest weapon, and your resources are your most powerful allies. Your job is to become the general of your own life, to give your soldiers a new commander, courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act despite it. It is the ability to face the fear of loss, the fear of failure, and the fear of judgment, and to say, "Not today." This is the great challenge that stands before you. The barrack of idleness is comfortable, but it is a prison. The battlefield of life is dangerous, but it is a place of growth, of meaning and of purpose. The choice is yours. Will you remain a soldier under the command of fear, or will you rise with courage as your new commander and step out onto the battlefield of your dreams? The war is on, and it's time to fight. Chapter 7. Investment as Warfare. Warfare is a strategic endeavor. It is the deployment of resources, the careful planning of attacks, and the decisive execution of a campaign to achieve a goal. On the battlefield, soldiers are not meant to stand still. They are meant to move, to engage, to fight. Every step they take is a calculated risk, a move toward victory or a retreat from defeat. In the same way, investment is warfare. It is the strategic deployment of your financial soldiers, your money, on the battlefield of life. Your enemies are inflation, poverty, and mediocrity, and if your soldiers are not actively engaged in the fight, they will be defeated. A dollar that sits idle in a bank account is a soldier refusing to fight. It will not grow, it will not multiply, and over time, its power will be eroded by the relentless enemy of rising prices and lost opportunities. In the grand war for your financial future, this is a form of passive surrender. The illusion of safety, which we explored in the previous chapter, is most dangerous on the battlefield of investment. Many people see investing as a reckless gamble, a game only for the bold or the lucky. But this is a profound misunderstanding of the nature of wealth. Wealth is not accumulated by passive saving, it is created by active deployment. Saving is a defensive strategy, but it can never be a winning one. It is like a general who builds a fortress and keeps all his troops inside, hoping the enemy will just go away. The enemy, in this case, inflation, will not go away. It will simply lay siege to the fortress, slowly but surely depleting your resources until your defenses crumble. Investment, on the other hand, is an offensive strategy. It is about sending your soldiers out to fight, to conquer new territory, and to bring back more resources. It is the only way to not just survive, but to win. So how do we begin this warfare? The first step is to see your money not as a precious, fragile thing to be protected, but as a powerful, disciplined soldier to be commanded. You must become the general. Your troops are ready for deployment. You just have to give the orders. The battlefields for your financial soldiers are many and varied, and a smart general diversifies his army across different fronts. One of the most common battlefields is the stock market. For many, this sounds like a daunting technical arena, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be a stock-picking genius. A simple yet powerful strategy is to invest in index funds or exchange-traded funds, ETFs, that track the market as a whole. This is like sending your soldiers in a well-organized large battalion to fight a broad campaign. You are not betting on a single soldier, but on the strength of the entire army. For the student with a small amount of money, this is a perfect first step. Every dollar you put into that fund is a soldier you've sent to the front lines, and over time, it will compound its strength and fight for your future. Another powerful battlefield is real estate. This is a long-term campaign, a slow and steady siege that can result in significant victories. It's about using your financial soldiers to acquire a piece of land or property that will appreciate in value and, in many cases, generate a steady stream of passive income. Think of the aspiring entrepreneur who, instead of letting his profits sit in a bank, used them to make a down payment on a small rental property. His money, his soldiers, were now fighting a new battle. They were generating monthly income, paying down a mortgage, and building equity. He was no longer just a business owner, he was a property owner, a general with a new front in his war for wealth. The risks were there, but the rewards were worth the fight. For the salary earner, the most critical battlefield might be investing in their own skills and education. This is a strategic deployment that pays dividends for a lifetime. It is the decision to use a portion of your income to take a course, get a certification, or acquire a new skill that makes you more valuable in the job market. This is a double victory. You are not only deploying your money, but you are also strengthening your greatest soldier, your own potential. The salary earner who invests in a professional development course or a new degree is a soldier who is constantly upgrading his armor and training. He is preparing for future battles, ensuring that his skills remain relevant and that his value in the job market continues to rise. A crucial part of this warfare is understanding the difference between smart risk and foolish risk. Foolish risk is like a soldier charging blindly into a machine gun nest. It is a reckless, uninformed action that is almost guaranteed to end in defeat. This is the person who puts their entire life savings into a single speculative stock based on a rumor. It is gambling, not investing. Smart risk, on the other hand, is like a general who studies the terrain, understands the enemy's position, and deploys his troops with a clear, well-thought-out plan. This is the person who diversifies their investments, does their research, and understands that while losses are a part of the game, a well-planned campaign will win more battles than it loses. Smart risk is about making informed, purposeful choices, understanding that the greatest risk of all is inaction. Let me tell you a story about a soldier who understood this. Meet Leo, a regular guy who worked in a factory. He was a disciplined saver, putting away a good portion of his paycheck every month. But he was also a soldier in the barrack, with his money sitting in a bank account. One day, a friend told him about a mutual fund. Leo was skeptical and afraid. His friend, a former soldier who had seen combat, said, "Leo, you're a good man, but you're a coward with your money. You're letting the enemy win without a fight. Read about it. Don't invest a single dollar until you understand it, but at least give your money a chance to fight for you." Leo took his friend's words to heart. He went to the library, read books on personal finance, and started to see his money in a new light. He didn't invest everything at once. He started small, putting a small portion of his savings into a diversified mutual fund. The fear was still there, but he now had a plan. He was no longer a spectator, he was a participant. His soldiers were on the battlefield. Over the years, his initial investments grew, and he continued to deploy more of his money with a sense of purpose and strategy. He faced market downturns, but he held his ground, understanding that a single lost battle doesn't mean you've lost the war. When he retired, he had a substantial sum of money, a testament to his courage and his willingness to fight. Contrast this with the story of Sarah, a young woman who was also a disciplined saver, but her fear was too powerful. She saw the market as a place for the greedy and the reckless. She kept all her money in a savings account, convinced that it was the safest thing to do. Her friends and family would talk about their investments, but she would just say, "I'm not a gambler." She was a soldier who had all the resources but refused to even leave the barrack. The years went by, and her savings, while they looked like a large number, were slowly being eaten away by inflation. When she finally needed the money for an emergency, she realized that its power had diminished significantly. She had all the soldiers, but they were defeated without a single shot being fired. She was a casualty of her own inaction, a victim of a war she refused to fight. This is the central lesson of this chapter. Investment is not a choice, it is a necessity. It is the only way to ensure that your money, like a good soldier, is not just surviving, but is actively fighting for your future. The battlefield of life is a place of constant engagement, and your financial soldiers must be deployed to win the war for your financial freedom. The fear will always be there, but your courage, your discipline, and your willingness to learn will be your new commanders. The time for idleness is over. It's time to send your soldiers to the front lines. Chapter 8. Don't just save, grow. Have you ever looked at your savings account and felt a sense of pride, only to feel a nagging doubt a few years later? Have you ever wondered why some people who seem to earn the same as you and save with the same discipline somehow end up with a much larger financial cushion? Have you ever asked yourself why your diligent saving has not translated into true financial freedom, but rather a slow, incremental accumulation that seems to barely keep up with the rising costs of life? This is a question that haunts many of us, the diligent savers, the prudent planners, the soldiers who have diligently filled the barracks with our troops, but who are still standing on the sidelines of the financial battlefield. The simple truth is this: saving alone will never make you wealthy. It will give you a measure of security, a feeling of comfort, but it will not create a legacy or a life of true financial abundance. It is a necessary first step, but it is not the destination. The act of saving is the act of enlisting a soldier. You've taken a portion of your income, a recruit, and you've sent it to the barracks, your savings account, where it is safe from being spent foolishly. This is a crucial and commendable act of discipline. But a soldier in the barracks is not a soldier in a battle. He is not fighting, he is not conquering, and he is not multiplying his strength. $1 in a savings account is a soldier on standby. It is not generating more of itself. It is not building wealth. It is simply sitting there, a victim of the slow, silent, and relentless war that is inflation. In the United States, your dollars are losing purchasing power every single year. The $100 bill you have today will buy you less tomorrow, and even less the year after that. Your soldier, sitting idle in the barrack, is being silently defeated, his strength and value slowly eroding away. This is the central paradox that so many people miss. They are fighting the wrong battle. They are so focused on the small tactical victory of saving money that they are losing the grand strategic war of growing wealth. They are like a general who is so proud of the size of his army that he refuses to send a single soldier into battle, not realizing that while he's counting his troops, the enemy is getting stronger and stronger. The battle for financial freedom is not won by hoarding resources, it is won by deploying them. It is not won by having the largest savings account, it is won by having the most active and productive investments. Let's look at this with a simple, powerful story that shows the dramatic difference between saving and growing. Meet two friends, Alex and Ben, both of whom graduated from college at the age of 22 and landed their first jobs. Alex was a diligent saver. He read books about financial prudence and decided to put away $200 a month into a high-interest savings account, believing that it was the safest way to build his future. Ben, on the other hand, was an investor. He also saved, but he saw his savings as a staging ground. He took that same $200 a month and, after doing some research, began investing it in a diversified portfolio of low-cost index funds. For 10 years, Alex diligently saved and Ben diligently invested. At the age of 32, Ben's portfolio had grown, but not dramatically, and Alex's savings account was a substantial sum. Alex felt he was ahead, but Ben was just beginning to see the true power of his choices. At the age of 32, Ben stopped contributing the $200 a month because he had to focus on a new business venture. Alex, seeing Ben's recklessness, decided to double his savings to $400 a month to catch up. For the next 33 years, Alex continued to save $400 a month, while Ben's initial investments continued to grow without any additional contributions. By the time they both reached retirement at age 65, the numbers were staggering. Alex, who had contributed a total of over $187,200 of his own money over his lifetime, had a savings account balance that was a respectable but not life-changing number. Ben, who had contributed a total of only $24,000 in his first 10 years of investing, had a portfolio that was worth far more. This is the magical, almost unbelievable power of compound growth. Ben's soldiers sent to the battlefield early had been fighting and multiplying for over 4 decades, bringing in more soldiers, which in turn brought in even more. Alex's soldiers had been sitting in the barracks, their numbers growing by addition, while Ben's numbers were growing by multiplication. This is not a theoretical story, it is the reality of financial life. It is the simple mathematical truth that a soldier deployed early, even with a small amount of training, can achieve far more than a soldier who is kept idle for too long. For the student who is working a part-time job, for the young salary earner just starting out, for the aspiring entrepreneur with a small amount of capital, your greatest asset is not the size of your initial investment, it is time. Time is the battlefield, and compound growth is the weapon. Every dollar you invest today, every soldier you deploy, has decades to fight and multiply on your behalf. The cost of waiting is not just the money you didn't save, it is the compound interest you didn't earn, the battles you didn't fight, and the victories you lost without even knowing it. Think of the real-life examples all around us. The janitor who quietly invested a small portion of his salary in a handful of well-known stocks for 40 years. His colleagues thought he was crazy for not spending his money, for not enjoying his life. They were saving for a rainy day while he was fighting a war. They were soldiers in the barrack, while his small army of investments was out on the battlefield, growing and multiplying. When he retired, he had amassed a small fortune, a legacy for his family, a testament to the fact that you don't need a high salary to build wealth. You need discipline, patience, and the courage to send your soldiers to battle. For the aspiring entrepreneur, the difference between saving and growing is even more critical. You might be saving up money for your business, an admirable act of preparation. But what if you saw that money not as a lump sum to be spent, but as a small army to be deployed? What if you took a small portion of it and used it to launch a side hustle, a small online business, or a low-cost product? You would be doing 2 things at once. You would be deploying your financial soldiers, and you would be deploying your potential. You would be learning, growing, and fighting on a small scale, preparing yourself for the larger battles to come. This is the difference between a person who talks about starting a business and a person who is already in the process of building one. One is a soldier in the barrack, the other is a warrior on the battlefield. The journey from saving to growing is a mindset shift. It is the recognition that money is a tool, not a trophy. It is the courage to face the fear of loss and the fear of the unknown. It is the understanding that the greatest risk is not the risk of a market downturn, but the risk of doing nothing while your financial future erodes. The path to wealth is not a matter of luck or a matter of high income. It is a matter of strategic action. It is about seeing your dollars as soldiers, your savings account as a staging ground, and the world of investment as the battlefield where your future will be won. Don't just save. Don't just keep your soldiers idle. Give them a purpose. Send them to the front lines. The war is on, and it's time to fight. Chapter 9. The Soldier Mentality for Success. Why do some people with seemingly identical talents and opportunities achieve extraordinary results, while others remain trapped in a cycle of unfulfilled potential? What is the invisible force that separates the ones who build empires, create masterpieces, and transform their lives from those who merely watch from the sidelines? It's a question that has puzzled philosophers, psychologists, and dreamers for generations. It's not about luck. It's not about talent alone. It's not about having more resources. It is about a fundamental difference in how they approach the battlefield of life. It's about a mindset, a way of being, a force of will that is as powerful and as disciplined as any army. It is what I call the soldier mentality. The soldier mentality is a state of being, a force of will, forged not in the comfort of a barrack, but in the crucible of training and the reality of combat. It is the unwavering commitment to a mission, the relentless pursuit of a goal, and the unshakable discipline to do what is necessary, even when it is difficult, uncomfortable, or scary. A soldier doesn't wake up in the morning and decide if they feel like training. They don't say, "I'll get to it later." They don't debate whether the weather is too cold or the task is too hard. They simply execute. They understand that their success and the success of their mission depends on consistent, disciplined action. They know that every drill, every push-up, every long march is not just a task, but a way of life, a preparation for the battles to come. This is the mindset that separates the winners in life from the spectators. The first pillar of the soldier mentality is discipline. Discipline is the bridge between a goal and its achievement. It is the willingness to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. For the student, discipline is the commitment to study for an exam, not just cramming the night before. For the aspiring entrepreneur, it is the daily grind of making sales calls, even after a dozen rejections. For the salary earner, it is the decision to continuously learn and improve their skills, even after the workday is over. Discipline is the force that keeps your soldiers, your money, and your potential on the battlefield, fighting for your future, even when your emotions are telling them to retreat to the barrack. It is the core of consistent action, and consistent action is the engine of all success. Consider the story of a young man named Marcus. He had a brilliant mind and a passion for technology, but he was a soldier in the barrack of his own indecision. He wanted to learn to code, but he would spend months researching different programming languages and online courses, never committing to one. He wanted to build an app, but he would get stuck on a single problem for days, then give up. He had all the potential in the world, a mind as sharp as a finely tuned weapon, but he lacked the discipline to use it. He was a soldier with a perfect plan, but he never left the command tent. Meanwhile, a peer of his, a young woman named Jessica, was also learning to code. She wasn't a genius, but she had an iron will. She committed to practicing for 1 hour every single day, no matter what. Some days she was tired, some days she was frustrated, but she never missed a session. She was a soldier on the battlefield of her own education. She didn't win every battle. She struggled with some concepts and had to redo many exercises. But her consistent discipline was a force of nature. Over a year, her 1 hour a day habit compounded into over 365 hours of practice. She learned, she grew, and eventually she built an app that solved a real problem for people. She was a testament to the fact that discipline beats talent when talent fails to act. The second pillar of the soldier mentality is endurance. Life is not a sprint, it is a marathon. The battlefield is not a single, isolated event. It is a series of long, grueling campaigns. Endurance is the ability to withstand hardship, to keep going when the path is long and the victories are few. A soldier knows that not every battle is a win. He knows that there will be setbacks, that there will be losses, that there will be moments when all hope seems lost. But he endures. He gets up after a fall, he bandages his wounds, and he keeps fighting. In the same way, a person with a soldier mentality understands that failure is not the end of the war, but simply a lost battle. They learn from it, they regroup, and they continue to march toward their goals. Think of the story of a woman named Linda who had a dream of opening her own bakery. She started with a small side hustle, selling baked goods at a local farmer's market. The first year was brutal. The hours were long, the profits were tiny, and there were days when she felt like giving up. A friend who had a similar dream started a business at the same time, but gave up after a few months, telling Linda, "It's just too hard, it's not worth it." Linda, however, had the endurance of a soldier. She faced rejection, she faced long, weary nights, and she faced financial setbacks, but she held firm. She kept her focus on the long-term goal. She saw every setback, not as a defeat, but as a challenge to be overcome. She endured. 2 years later, she was able to open her small bakery, a testament to her unyielding will. She had a soldier's mentality. Her friend had a spectator's mentality. Her friend was a soldier who retreated to the barrack when the first battle became too difficult, while Linda was a warrior who kept fighting, a testament to the fact that endurance is often the most important quality on the road to success. The third pillar of the soldier mentality is focus. In the chaos of the battlefield, a soldier must be able to focus on the mission. They must be able to filter out the noise, ignore the distractions, and keep their eyes on the objective. In the same way, the battlefield of life is full of distractions: social media, endless entertainment, the siren call of a new shiny object. A person with a soldier mentality knows how to focus. They set a clear objective, they create a plan, and they execute with unwavering focus. They are not chasing every trend. They are not getting distracted by what others are doing. They are simply marching toward their own victory. Consider the story of a young man named Steve who had a dream of becoming a published author. He had a great idea for a novel, but his life was a battlefield of distractions. He would spend hours scrolling through social media, binge-watching TV shows, and playing video games. He would tell himself, "I'll start writing tomorrow." His potential was a powerful, undisciplined force, and his soldiers, his ideas, and his time were scattered and unfocused. He was a general who had no control over his troops. Meanwhile, his friend, a young man named David, also wanted to write a book. He had less talent than Steve, but he had a powerful sense of focus. He dedicated 1 hour every night to writing, and during that hour, his phone was off, his door was closed, and he was completely unapologetically focused on the mission. He was a soldier on a reconnaissance mission, pushing forward 1 paragraph at a time. The distractions were all around him, but he had the discipline to ignore them. Over a year, he completed his first draft. Steve, meanwhile, had countless ideas, but not a single page written. David's focus was his greatest weapon, and it led him to a victory that Steve's unfocused potential could never achieve. The soldier mentality is not a gift you are born with. It is a quality you cultivate. It is a decision you make every single day. It is the choice to be disciplined when it is easier to be lazy. It is the choice to endure when it is easier to give up. It is the choice to focus when it is easier to be distracted. The barracks are a place of rest, but they are not a place of victory. Your potential is a powerful force, but it is useless unless it is deployed through action. The world is a battlefield, and the only way to win is to become a warrior. The war is still raging. It's time to adopt the soldier mentality. Chapter 10. Are you still sitting in the barrack? You have walked with me through the barracks. You have heard the rustle of the idle soldier's uniform, the silence of unspent potential, and the quiet whisper of money gathering dust in a bank account. You have seen the battlefield of life, a place of constant motion and endless opportunity. You have understood the subtle but relentless siege of inflation and the paralyzing command of fear. You have learned that investment is a form of warfare and that the soldier mentality is the key to victory. We have laid out the strategy, identified the enemy, and armed ourselves with knowledge. But I have one final question for you. A question that cuts through all the theory and all the analogies and gets to the heart of the matter. Are you still sitting in the barrack? The most difficult part of any journey is the first step. For the soldier, it's the moment they step out of the barrack and onto the cold, hard ground of the battlefield. It's the moment they face the unknown, the moment they expose themselves to risk and to the possibility of failure. For you, that moment is now. All the knowledge in the world is useless if it is not put into action. A perfectly sharpened sword is just a piece of metal if it is never drawn from its sheath. A brilliant mind with a genius idea is just a person with a good thought if that thought never becomes a deed. The barrack is comfortable, but it is a prison. The fear is real, but it is a commander that you must disobey. The excuses are compelling, but they are chains that you must break. So, how do you take that first step? How do you finally move out of the barrack and onto the battlefield of your own life? You start by deploying your soldiers, one at a time. This is not about a sudden grand gesture. It is about a series of small, intentional, and courageous actions. It is about moving from a state of passive contemplation to a state of purposeful action. This is where the soldier mentality, which we discussed in the last chapter, becomes not just a concept, but a living, breathing part of your life. It's about taking the principles of discipline, endurance, and focus and applying them to the real, messy, and unpredictable reality of your daily life. Let's begin with your money. For years it has been sitting idle, a silent army waiting for your command. The first step to deploying it is to make a conscious decision to change its purpose. It is no longer just money, it is a soldier. The barrack is no longer a place of safety, it is a temporary staging ground. You don't have to put your entire life savings into a risky venture. You can start small. Take $100, $200, whatever you can afford to lose, and send it to the front lines. Open a brokerage account, buy a small amount of an S&P 500 index fund, and watch what happens. That small action is not just an investment, it is a declaration. It is you telling yourself and the universe that you are no longer a spectator in your own financial life. It is you sending a soldier to fight for your future. The fear will be there. The voice will whisper, "What if you lose it?" But your new commander, courage, will answer, "What if you don't?" And what if, over time, it compounds into something significant? Consider the story of a young man named Alex, a college student working a part-time job. He made just enough money to cover his bills and have a little left over. He was a disciplined saver, but his money, a small battalion, was sitting in a savings account. He read a book about investing and, paralyzed by fear, didn't do anything for months. Then, one day, he was talking to his grandfather, a man who had lived through the Great Depression. His grandfather told him, "Son, I was a young man during the war. I saw soldiers who were brave, and I saw soldiers who were cowards. The cowards were the ones who were too scared to even leave the camp. They were safe, but they never saw a victory. Don't be a financial coward." His grandfather's words hit him hard. He opened a small investment account, put in $50, and started a habit of putting in $25 a week. It was a terrifying decision, but it was a step. That small step, that initial deployment, was the beginning of his financial education. It was the first battle he chose to fight, and it set him on a path to a life of financial purpose. He was no longer a soldier in the barrack, he was a warrior in the making. Just as you must deploy your money, you must also deploy your potential. Your talents, your skills, your ideas, they are all soldiers waiting for your command. How long will you keep them idle? How long will you keep telling yourself, "I'll do it later," or "I'm not ready"? The battlefield for your potential is consistent action. It is the daily commitment to do the work, to create, to build, to learn. It doesn't have to be a grand, life-changing action. It can be something as simple as spending 30 minutes a day learning a new skill. It can be writing a single page of your book. It can be making one phone call to a potential client. These small, consistent actions are the bugle calls that tell your soldiers to get into position. They are the initial deployments that will lead to larger, more significant victories. Think of the story of a woman named Maria, a talented graphic designer who was working a soul-crushing job at a marketing agency. She had a dream of starting her own design studio, but the fear of failure and the comfort of a steady paycheck kept her in the barrack. She was a soldier with a powerful weapon, her creativity, but she was afraid to use it in a battle for herself. Then one evening, after a particularly bad day at work, she realized that the safety of her job was an illusion. She was in a prison of her own making. She decided to take a small step. She created a portfolio of her best personal work, and with trembling hands, she sent it to a few potential clients. Nothing happened. The fear was still there, but she didn't retreat. She made a commitment to send out 2 portfolios a week, no matter what. It was a small action, but it was a battle she was choosing to fight. Over time, she got her first small freelance job, then another and another. Her soldiers were fighting, and they were winning. She eventually had enough clients to quit her job and launch her own studio. She wasn't just a designer anymore, she was a creator, a business owner, a warrior who had found her purpose on the battlefield. These stories are not unique, they are not the exception, they are the rule. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not the ones with the most talent or the most money. They are the ones who have the courage to leave the barrack, They are the ones who understand that a life of unfulfilled potential is a far greater tragedy than a life of lost battles. The world outside is not waiting for you to be ready. The opportunities are not going to line up at your door and knock. The life you want to live is a battlefield, and it must be won with courage, with discipline, and with intentional action. The time for deliberation is over. The time for action is now. So I ask you one last time, are you still sitting in the barrack? The war is on. Your soldiers are waiting for your command. It's time to step out and fight for your life. Conclusion. Throughout this journey, we have walked through the metaphor of the soldier, the barrack, and the battlefield. We have seen how a person of immense potential can remain a spectator in the grand war of life, and how their greatest assets, their money, their talents, their very purpose, can sit idle, unused and undeployed. We have explored the insidious nature of fear, the illusion of safety, and the powerful silent siege of inflation. We have understood that life is not a playground but a battlefield, and that the only way to win is to fight. We have learned that money is a soldier, a powerful tool that must be sent to war to multiply and grow. We have seen that the most valuable asset is not just potential but the courage to deploy it. We have internalized the soldier mentality, a way of being that values discipline, endurance, and focused action above all else. Now, as we stand at the end of this journey together, I have one final question. A question that is meant not to be answered with words, but with a change in your very being. What kind of soldier will you be? The tragedy of the soldier who never fights is not that he lost a battle, but that he never even gave himself the chance to win. His potential remains a theoretical concept, a promise unfulfilled. He is a warrior, in name only, a person who had the strength to endure, the courage to face an enemy, and the skill to overcome an obstacle, but who chose to remain a casualty of his own inaction. This is the fate that awaits anyone who allows their money, their talents, and their potential to sit idle. They will have a life of quiet regret, a life filled with the haunting question of what if. They will watch as others, with perhaps less talent and fewer resources, fight and win the battles they were too afraid to join. They will see the victories and the triumphs of those who were willing to step onto the battlefield, and they will know in their heart of hearts that they could have and should have done the same. Consider the powerful contrast between two people. There is the person who has a brilliant business idea but never acts on it. They spend years refining the plan, waiting for the perfect moment, the ideal market conditions, the complete absence of risk. They are a soldier with a perfect plan who remains in the barrack while the war rages on without them. The idea, once a vibrant living thing, becomes a dusty artifact of what could have been. And then there is the person who has a good but imperfect idea. They don't have all the answers, they don't have all the resources, but they have the courage to take the first step. They are a soldier who understands that a battle plan is only as good as its execution. They start small, they make mistakes, they learn from their failures, and they continue to fight. Their journey is filled with setbacks, but with every setback they learn, they grow, and they become stronger. They are a warrior on the battlefield, and the only certainty is that they will not be defeated by their own inaction. The victory for them is not guaranteed, but it is the opportunity to win. Look at your own life. Have you been a soldier in the barrack? Have you been waiting for the perfect time to start that business, to invest that money, to learn that skill, to pursue that dream? How many days, weeks, months, or years have you let slip by, a victim of your own hesitation? Your money is a soldier, and it is losing its value every single day it sits idle. Your potential is a weapon, and its power is diminishing every single day it is not used. The battlefield of life is not a place for spectators, it is a place for participants. The victories are not handed out to those who wait, they are won by those who fight. This is the central, unyielding truth of this book. Success is not a matter of potential, it is a matter of action. It is not enough to be a soldier in name only. You must become a warrior indeed. This requires a fundamental shift in your perspective. You must stop seeing risk as a threat and start seeing it as an opportunity. You must stop seeing failure as a final defeat and start seeing it as a valuable lesson. You must stop seeing comfort as a goal and start seeing it as a temporary state that can lead to stagnation. The barrack is comfortable, but it is not where your greatness lies. Your greatness is on the battlefield, in the struggle, in the relentless pursuit of a life that is truly yours to command. The time for deliberation is over. The time for action is now. You have been given the tools, you have been given the mindset, you have been given the understanding. The rest is up to you. Don't be the soldier who sat in the barrack while the world was won by those who fought. Deploy your soldiers, act decisively, take that first step, take that first risk, fight that first battle. The victories are waiting for you. They are waiting for the soldier who is brave enough to leave the barrack behind and to claim the life that is theirs to win. Congratulations! By reaching this page, you've taken the first step toward unleashing your true potential. Remember, knowledge alone is not enough. Action is what turns dreams into reality. Treat your money, skills and talents as soldiers ready for battle. Don't sit idle while opportunities pass by. Every day is a chance to deploy your soldiers, grow and conquer your personal battles. Believe in yourself, take courageous action, and keep moving forward. Your journey to success starts now, and the victories ahead belong to those who refuse to remain in the barracks.